The night sky above the kingdom was deep and endless, a velvet canvas pierced by silver stars. At the very center of the capital, the Luna Temple rose like a tower of crystal and obsidian, its spires reflecting the glow of the full moon. Tonight, every eye in the kingdom would watch as the Luna ceremony began, a ritual that decided the fate of the young and the powerful, those who would rise or fall under the moon's judgment. Among the gathered crowd, Seren moved with careful grace. Her long dark hair shimmered under the moonlight, her steps measured, precise. Inside, her heart raced, but no one could tell. Seren carried a secret she did not want to succeed. Her family carried a curse tied to the Luna ceremony, a shadow of old magic that could bring ruin if she claimed the power meant for her. To survive, she had to pretend failure. The Alpha King, Kale observed from the high platform, seated like a statue of black and silver. His eyes, sharp and calculating, swept the crowd and lingered on her. Seren felt the weight of his gaze but hid it behind calm composure. Kale was a man of unmatched power and presence. He ruled not only by command but by fear and reverence. Yet something about the way he looked at her stirred a strange, dangerous curiosity. The ceremony began. Trials of skill, wisdom, and courage tested the participants. Flames danced from stone braziers, shadows twisted along marble floors, and mystical creatures prowled unseen. Guardians of the ancient rites, Seren approached the first trial, the path of reflection. A corridor filled with mirrors that revealed not just the body but the heart. As she stepped forward, the mirrors shifted. Faces of doubt, fear, and temptation flickered in the glass. Seren held her head high, pretending uncertainty. She stumbled just enough to appear clumsy, brushing against illusions that seemed to whisper her failures aloud. The crowd gasped softly, believing she was unfit for the trials. She allowed herself a secret smile. Her plan was working. Kyle's eyes never left her. Though she pretended to falter, he saw the subtle control in her movements, the deliberate steps hidden beneath apparent mistakes. A faint line of his lips curved almost imperceptibly, a mixture of amusement and intrigue. The Alpha King knew. He always knew more than others believed. Next came the trial of courage, where candidates faced illusions of their deepest fears. Seren entered a chamber where shadows shaped themselves into monstrous figures. She faltered, pretending fear, letting her knees weaken as if the darkness might swallow her. The spectators leaned forward, hearts racing. To them, Seren was failing just as she planned. But behind the illusions, Seren's mind remained sharp. She counted the shadows, observed their movements, and noted the patterns. A misstep here, a stumble there, and she could control the outcome, appearing weak without endangering herself. Kale followed her from above, unseen but ever present. He noticed how her hands twitched, how her eyes darted with calculation. He did not intervene. Instead, he let her act, testing her patience and strategy as if daring her to reveal her true strength. His interest was not merely in her performance, it was in her mind, her heart, the fire she tried to hide. The final trial approached, the lunar test, where candidates touched the moonstone at the temple's heart. It was said that only those worthy could draw its silver light without being consumed by its magic. Seren's pulse quickened. If she truly failed here, the curse might still strike her family. Yet she had prepared for this, weaving subtle illusions to seem powerless. As she stepped into the chamber, a hush fell over the crowd. Moonlight poured in from the high windows, silver rays tracing her figure. Seren reached for the moonstone, her fingers brushing its smooth surface. She let her hand tremble, her touch hesitant as if afraid. Gasps rippled through the audience. This was her grand performance, the moment she would fail and be spared from destiny. Kale descended the steps, silent as shadow, approaching her. Seren stiffened, but she did not flee. She knew she could not now. Her secret plan had been discovered. The Alpha King had seen through her disguise, and yet he made no accusation, no command. Instead, he simply watched, a quiet storm behind his dark eyes. "You move with caution," Kyle said, his voice low, rich and commanding. "But I wonder, is it caution or fear?" Seren met his gaze, heart hammering. She could not reveal her true intention, not yet. I am careful, Your Majesty," she replied softly, keeping her voice steady. Kyle's gaze narrowed, unreadable, and he extended a hand, not to strike but to guide. "Then let me show you a truth," he said, and with a flick of his wrist, the illusions that surrounded her fell away. The moonstone's light shimmered around her fingers, and the chamber filled with a radiant glow. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the moonstone pulsed with energy, accepting Serene's touch. She had not failed. She had in fact passed, though not by her own plan. Cale's eyes softened slightly, a flicker of admiration and something unspoken passing between them. "You think to hide your strength," he murmured, "but the moon knows the truth. And so do I." Serene's mind raced. Her carefully laid plan had unraveled in a heartbeat. The Alpha King had not only discovered her secret, but had also ensured her success. Her pulse quickened with fear and something else, a strange fluttering she could not name. Kyle stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet magnetic. "The Luna ceremony does not fail those who are clever," he said, "and neither do I." A hush fell across the temple as Kyle lifted his hand, pointing to Serene. "I claim her," he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber like a silver bell. "She is mine." Shock rippled through the crowd. Whispers spread like wildfire, and even the bravest candidates faltered under the weight of Kyle's decree. Serene froze. The words struck her like a lightning bolt. Her plan to fail, to hide, to protect herself and her family had collapsed, and now she was claimed by the most powerful man in the kingdom, a man whose eyes saw everything and whose presence could not be denied. Kale's gaze lingered on her, intense and unwavering. "Do not misunderstand," he said softly, yet his tone carried weight that could bend steel. "This is not punishment, nor is it favor. It is necessity, and perhaps desire." Serene's breath caught. She wanted to resist, to run, to protest, but the chamber seemed to shrink around her. The moonstone's light bathed her in silver, and she realized the truth. Kyle's claim was not a threat, not exactly. It was a challenge, a test, and a promise wrapped in shadow and power. The crowd's murmurs faded into silence as Kale and Serene faced each other, the tension between them like a live wire. Serene understood that her life had changed in an instant. The carefully constructed deception, the plan to fail, was gone. What remained was a new path, one that intertwined with the Alpha King in ways she could not yet predict. As the moon climbed higher, casting long silver shadows across the temple, Serene felt a shiver run through her, not from fear alone, but from the thrilling, dangerous unknown. Kale's eyes held secrets, promises, and warnings, and she knew that the night had only just begun. The Luna ceremony had ended, yet a far more personal trial had begun, a game of power, trust and desire between the Alpha King and the clever, cautious girl who thought she could outwit fate. And in that moment, under the silver gaze of the moon, Serene realized one undeniable truth. She could no longer hide. Not from the Luna, not from Kale, and perhaps not from herself. The chamber doors closed behind the spectators, leaving Kale and Serene alone. Silence fell, heavy and expectant. The first sparks of connection and conflict blazed in the charged air. Serene's heart raced. She had survived the trials, yet the real challenge had just begun. The Alpha King had claimed her, and neither magic nor cunning could undo it. And as she met his gaze once more, she felt the pull of destiny, inescapable and luminous, drawing her into a world of shadows, power, and the unknown. The night whispered around them, carrying a single, undeniable truth: nothing would ever be the same again. The halls of the Alpha King's palace were vast and silent, the walls carved from black stone that gleamed faintly under the light of enchanted lanterns. Shadows stretched along the corridors, moving like living things, and the air was thick with the scent of moonflowers and ancient magic. Serene followed Kale closely, her steps careful. Every corner of the palace seemed to watch her, every whisper of wind carrying a memory of the past, a warning or a secret. She had expected confinement, suspicion, perhaps even cold dismissal. Instead, Kale treated her with an unusual balance of command and patience. He allowed her to move freely within certain bounds, testing her, observing her, yet never seeming fully satisfied. Serene's heart was uneasy. She had hoped to fail the Luna ceremony and disappear quietly, but now she was caught in a world where her every thought, every decision, was watched by the most powerful man she had ever met. "Do not think this is a reward," Kyle said one evening as they walked through the palace gardens under the pale moonlight. His voice was low, smooth, and carried a weight that made Serene straighten immediately. "Nor is it punishment, it is necessity." Serene's eyes met his. "Necessity?" she repeated, her voice careful. trying not to betray the fear and curiosity swirling in her chest. He nodded, stepping closer, the silver glow of the moon reflecting off his armor. Your family carries a curse tied to your power. The Luna ceremony would have exposed it fully. I claim you because, if you are left to your own devices, it could destroy everything. I am not blind to your schemes. Seren felt a shiver. She had always believed she could hide her cleverness, her cunning, her careful planning. Yet here was Kale, the Alpha King, looking straight through her masks and seeing her truth. She began, but stopped. Words failed her. She had no excuse, no argument that could convince him otherwise. All she could do was nod slightly, accepting the truth she had tried to hide. Kale's gaze softened for the briefest moment before returning to its steady intensity. Good, he said. Acceptance is the first step, but do not mistake this for trust. That night, Seren lay in the chamber assigned to her, a room of silver silk and dark stone. The walls seemed alive, absorbing her every movement, every thought. She could not sleep. Her mind spun with the events of the ceremony, with Kale's claim and with the dangerous pull she felt toward him. The palace was not merely a home. It was a test. Whispered magic lingered in the halls, guiding, warning, and challenging. Even the enchanted gardens held threats disguised as beauty. Kale had not simply claimed her. He had set her on a path of trials far more personal than those of the Luna ceremony. Days passed. Serene learned the palace's rhythms, its hidden passages, the secret alcoves where moonlight touched the floors like liquid silver. Kale observed her silently, never intervening directly, yet orchestrating situations that tested her courage and intellect. She faced illusions that forced her to confront her fears, traps that demanded both wit and strength, and creatures bound by ancient magic that could strike without warning. One evening, a shadow crept into the garden where Seren practiced her magical control. A twisted figure, cloaked in darkness, attacked without sound. Seren's hand shot to the dagger at her belt, but she realized immediately that brute force would not win here. She studied the figure, its movements precise and countered with clever use of the surrounding magic. Moonlight bent to her will, creating barriers and distractions, until the shadow retreated, dissolving into the night. Kale appeared silently at the edge of the garden, his presence so commanding that even the moonlight seemed to bend toward him. You see, he said softly, your mind is sharper than you allow. Do not hide behind fear. That will be your undoing. Serene's chest rose and fell rapidly, adrenaline still flowing through her veins. I thought I was ready, she admitted, her voice quieter than she intended. Kale stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. Ready is not the same as aware. You must understand the weight of your choices, the power you carry, and the dangers that follow it. Only then will you survive, and perhaps one day stand beside me as more than a pupil of fate. Serene felt a strange pull toward him, a tension that neither anger nor fear could fully describe. She wanted to resist, to keep her independence intact, yet a part of her longed for his guidance, his strength, and the warmth of his attention. She realized the Alpha King was not merely testing her physical abilities or magical skill. He was probing her heart, her courage, and her spirit. Their days became a delicate dance. Kale challenged her, placing her in situations where trust and intelligence were tested. Serene navigated each trial with skill, learning not only about her own power but about Kale himself. She saw glimpses of his loneliness, the burden of leadership, and the strange unspoken pain behind his stern demeanor. Yet even as trust began to form, so did tension. Words hung between them, unspoken, loaded with possibility. A glance lingered too long. A touch brushed an arm in passing. Serene's heart raced each time Kale's gaze found hers, and she realized that desire, fear, and respect were entwined in ways she had never imagined. One night, Kale took her to the palace's highest balcony, overlooking the kingdom. Moonlight poured over the land, silver rivers of light reflecting off the towers and walls. The city below was quiet, unaware of the tension and danger that played out above. You must understand, Kyle said, his voice a soft rumble, that I did not claim you lightly. Your cunning, your strength, it is rare. You are not merely a candidate for power. You are a force of your own. Serene's fingers tightened around the railing, the wind tugging at her hair. Then why claim me? Why not let me fail and protect myself and my people? Kale's gaze held hers, steady and unwavering. because failing would not have protected anyone. The curse you carry is not just yours. It is a shadow that touches everything you love. I claim you because I will not allow it to destroy what is precious, and because I believe you can overcome it with guidance, and perhaps with me. Seren's breath caught. She understood then that Kale's claim was more than possession. It was protection, a challenge, and a promise all at once. Her carefully constructed plan, her desire to hide and fail had been swept away. She was no longer just surviving. She was living in a world where trust, loyalty, and desire were bound together with danger and destiny. The days that followed tested them both. Seren faced visions of her family's curse, whispers of ancient magic that sought to manipulate her, and creatures summoned to test her control over the moon's energy. Each time Kale was near, never interfering directly, yet always watching, ready to guide when necessary. In the quiet moments, when the palace seemed to breathe with magic and shadow, Seren and Kale exchanged words that hinted at more than strategy or instruction. Each conversation carried unspoken meaning, a mix of curiosity, attraction, and mutual respect. Seren found herself drawn to him, though she tried to deny it. The Alpha King was dangerous, commanding, and entirely captivating. One evening, as the moon reached its apex, Seren was called to the Moonstone Chamber. The air was thick with magic, and the walls shimmered with silver light. Kale stood at the center, waiting. "Tonight," he said, "you will face a choice. Not a trial, not a test of skill, but of heart." Seren's pulse quickened. She had faced illusions, traps, and creatures of shadow, but never a test of heart. "What must I do?" she asked, trying to steady her voice. Kale extended his hand, not commanding, not threatening, but offering. "Trust me," he said simply, "or walk away and face the consequences alone." The words hung in the chamber like a spell. Seren understood the gravity of the moment. Trusting Kale was dangerous, yet the path of independence, her original plan to fail, was no longer an option. The curse, the magic, and the fate of her people all demanded a choice. Seren took a deep breath, her eyes locking with his. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. The moonstone pulsed with silver light, responding not just to magic, but to the connection forming between them. Kale's grip was firm yet gentle, and for the first time, Seren felt the strange comfort of shared strength. The chamber filled with radiant light, and the shadows that lingered in the corners seemed to bow, acknowledging the bond forged in that moment. Seren realized that the Alpha King had not only claimed her body, but also her courage, her trust, and perhaps, unknowingly, her heart. And yet, even as light filled the chamber, a shadow remained at the edge of the moonlit floor, a reminder that danger, destiny, and desire were never far apart. The next steps would be more difficult, more personal, and far more revealing than anything Seren had faced in the Luna ceremony. The night whispered promises of trials yet to come. For Seren, the real test had begun, not of skill, not of cunning, but of heart. And as she met Kale's gaze, steady and unwavering, she understood that their bond, fragile and intense, would be the key to survival, power, and perhaps love. The palace was silent, save for the soft pulse of magic. Outside, the moon hung high, silver and watchful. Inside, a clever girl and a powerful king faced a future neither could fully control, yet both would be changed forever. The night ended not with answers, but with questions, with tension, and with a promise. The chains of desire and destiny had begun to tighten, and neither could escape unscathed. The palace was silent under the full moon's silver glow, yet the air thrummed with tension. Outside, shadows moved unnaturally, and even the wind seemed to pause, watching the events that were about to unfold. Seren stood in the moonstone chamber, her hand brushing against the smooth surface, feeling its energy pulse like a heartbeat. Kale appeared beside her, his dark eyes reflecting both concern and determination. "This is the moment," Kale said, his voice low, carrying the weight of command and care. "The curse that shadows your family is stirring. You must face it not with deception but with truth and courage. Only together can we endure it." Seren's heart raced. She had faced illusions, dangerous trials, and magical attacks before, but this was different. This was personal. The curse was not an enemy she could fight with clever tricks or hidden strength. It demanded honesty, vulnerability, and the full embrace of her own power. "I'm ready," she said, though her voice trembled slightly. She had learned much under Kyle's guidance. The importance of trust, the depth of strategy, and the strange, compelling pull between them. Yet readiness was more than skill. It was courage to face fear and the unknown. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder, firm but gentle. Then let us begin. The chamber grew darker, shadows stretching like living creatures. Moonlight intensified, swirling around the moonstone, and a deep hum filled the air, vibrating in their bones. The curse manifested as a figure, dark and shifting, with eyes that seemed to pierce into the soul. It spoke not with words, but with images of destruction, pain, and loss, showing Seren visions of her family falling into ruin if she failed. Seren stepped forward, her hand brushing Kale's for reassurance. The Alpha King did not touch the curse. Instead, he stood slightly behind her, ready to act if needed. His presence alone gave her strength. She took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of her inner power, every lesson Kale had taught her, every ounce of courage she possessed. "You cannot frighten me," she said, her voice steady, though her pulse thundered in her ears. "I will not hide. I will face this." The shadow surged forward, shifting violently, trying to overwhelm her. But Seren's hand moved with precision, drawing silver threads of moonlight around her. She created barriers, guided illusions to protect herself and Kale, and shaped the energy of the moonstone into a shield of light. The curse recoiled, sensing her determination and growing strength. Kale watched silently, his eyes dark and intense. He did not interfere, for he knew this was her battle. Yet he remained close, his presence a tether of reassurance. He trusted her to face the curse as she had learned to trust him in ways she had never imagined. The shadow tried another attack, projecting fears and doubts into her mind, visions of failure, rejection, and loneliness. Seren staggered, nearly collapsing under the weight of her own imagination. Kale's hand found hers, firm and unwavering. "Do not let it speak for you," he said. "Your heart, your choices, those are stronger than any curse." Seren felt warmth flow through her at his words. She realized then that Kale's claim had never been about possession alone. It had been about guidance, protection, and a bond that allowed her to confront the impossible. Their hands remained joined, their combined energy forming a brilliant silver shield that pushed the curse back. With renewed determination, Seren stepped fully into the center of the chamber. Moonlight poured over her, illuminating her strength and courage. "I am not afraid," she declared. "I will choose my path and I will protect those I love." The curse shrieked, a sound like shattering glass, and surged one final time. But Kale and Seren stood together, their hands joined, their will united. The moonstone pulsed and the shadow dissolved into light, leaving only calm and silver radiance. The air cleared and the chamber felt alive with quiet power, as if acknowledging the victory of courage and unity. Seren fell to her knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Kale knelt beside her, steadying her, his gaze filled with respect and something deeper. "You have faced it," he said softly. "Not with tricks, not with hesitation, but with strength and heart. You have surpassed even what I expected." Seren looked up, her eyes meeting his. "I could not have done it alone," she admitted. I trusted you." Kyle's lips curved slightly, a rare and subtle smile. "And I trusted you too, more than I realized." The tension that had hovered between them throughout their trials began to shift, softening into something more profound. Their bond, forged in the heat of challenge and danger, was no longer just about survival or strategy. It was about connection, respect, and an unspoken powerful affection. In the days that followed, Seren and Kale continued to navigate the palace and its mysteries, but the fear and tension had transformed. They trained together, explored the enchanted gardens, and shared quiet moments beneath the moonlight. The power dynamics that had once been sharp and threatening evolved into mutual respect and partnership. One evening, Kale led Seren to a balcony overlooking the kingdom. The city below shimmered under the moon's glow, silent and beautiful. "You have changed everything," he said. "Not just for yourself, but for the kingdom. Your courage has restored balance where the curse once threatened chaos." Seren gazed at the horizon, her thoughts calm yet alive with wonder. "I never expected this. To claim power, face danger, and feel this." She hesitated, searching for the right words. "And yet, I am grateful, even for the trials, even for you." Kyle's eyes softened and he reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Gratitude is only the beginning," he said. "There is more to explore, more to understand. Together." For the first time, Seren allowed herself to feel completely present in his presence, not just wary or cautious. She realized that trust, Courage and connection were stronger than fear. And in Kale's unwavering gaze, she found a reflection of her own growing strength and desire. The next lunar cycle brought new challenges, small, subtle, but significant. Political intrigue, lingering magical shadows, and the quiet stirrings of old enemies reminded them that peace was fragile. Yet Seren and Kale faced each together, their bond a shield stronger than any magic or strategy. Their partnership was not just survival, it was mutual growth, understanding, and a kind of love forged in trials and trust. In a quiet moment beneath the full moon, Seren stood beside Kale at the Moonstone Chamber once more. "We have faced much," she said softly, "but I feel stronger, braver, and more alive than ever before." Kale placed a hand on her shoulder, the touch firm and grounding. "And you will continue to grow," he replied. "I claim you not as possession, but as equal. Together we can face anything." Seren's chest rose with a deep breath. The palace, the kingdom, the shadows, and the moonstone itself all seemed to hum with approval. She had survived, transformed, and embraced her destiny, not by hiding or failing, but by confronting truth, trust, and courage. And yet, even in victory, the moon's glow cast long shadows. The Alpha King and the clever girl he had claimed understood that life, magic, and love were never simple. Each challenge had changed them, each victory had revealed new depths, and the future remained uncertain. But for the first time, they faced that future not alone, not with fear, but together. Kale's hand in hers, their hearts aligned. They were ready for whatever came next. The palace walls whispered softly in the night, carrying tales of courage, magic, and hearts that had found one another amidst shadow and light. The moonstone pulsed quietly, its silver glow a testament to endurance, trust, and the strength born of shared trials. As the night deepened, Seren and Kale stood together on the balcony, the wind brushing their faces, the kingdom spread beneath them and the moon high above. Nothing could undo what they had faced, nor the bond they had forged. And as the stars twinkled above, they understood one undeniable truth. Their hearts had been tested, their courage had prevailed, and their destiny, forever intertwined, was only beginning.